Hi everyone, Tiffany Ashton here. I'm just going to give it a few moments for everyone to be able to get in and join okay. There's about a 10-second delay, so just going to give it a few moments for everyone to get inside and get ready to get started. Thanks for joining us. So let me know when you're able to hear me okay on your end, and then that will mean that we are connected. So I'll just wait a few moments. I'll wait for that first comment to come through, and then we can go ahead and start. Let's see. There's definitely a delay. Okay, perfect. Got my first confirmation. Thanks for joining. Okay, welcome. This is my second Q&A session on LinkedIn, doing through LinkedIn Live. If you weren't in attendance to our April session, please be sure to review that session. It was an hour, but we went through some great tips and answered a lot of great questions, especially for those that are looking to transition to the clinical research industry. And so it's a great source of information if you want to check that one out. That occurred on April 20th, and especially on my page, the replay link is there. All right. Okay, perfect. And so for those that are new and aren't familiar with who I am, my name is Tiffany Ashton, and I'm the Director of Operations at ClinEssentials, as well as the Clinical Trial Manager course instructor. I have been in the industry. In July, it will be 20 years. I have a few grays up top on my hair because it's been a long journey, but I'm excited and I'm still very passionate about clinical research as much as when I first started. I have been a clinical research coordinator. I've been a CRA, clinical research associate. I have also been a lead CRA, unblinded CRA, unblinded clinical trial manager. And for the last 10 years, I've been in the clinical trial manager space. And I enjoy that. I will say that I enjoy being a clinical trial manager, but I do have experience on the other roles as well. So I just wanted you to just orient yourself with my background, and I am open to taking questions in any of the clinical research topics that you may have, especially as it relates to maybe being a CRC, a CRA, or a CTM. And I've worked both on sponsor and CRO sides as well, so I have that perspective if anyone has a question on that. Let's see. So let's get down to it. Good morning. Glad to see everyone here. Who wants to be the first one to ask a question? And I got through all of the questions last time except one, I believe. And it was really about how to find the top CROs in the world or in the United States. And you can do just a quick Google search. And I just went on Google just 15 minutes ago and I put top clinical research organizations in my search bar, and it popped up with at least 9, and it has 6 more hidden. So IQVIA, MedPace, LabCorp Drug Development, Syneos Health, ParExcel, PRA, but PRA is not, they merged with Icon. So this may be a little bit outdated here, but at least you'll have some main CROs to look at if you are looking for, to transition into the CRO world. So do know that some companies have merged. I know LabCorp has now just rebranded as well and broke off. PPD, Icon, CTI. So quick Google search will help you a lot of times on the questions that you're looking for. And then go to the careers page. It's either at the top or the bottom of those CROs that you're at and take a look at what their openings are. So let's see. Who wants to be the first to ask the question? Okay, how do you transition from the laboratory to clinical research? So let's see, I'll just put that on the screen. That one really depends. So first off, if you're looking to get into clinical research, what role do you want to be in? So you asked the question, I want to transition from laboratory to clinical research. Do you want to be a clinical research coordinator, a CRA, a CTM? Either one of those may have a different path. So it's always best to get clear on, where do I want to go? Which role am I looking for? Because if you're transferring from laboratory to, let's just say, a CRC, you may already have a lot of the experience that is needed, especially just depending on what you're doing in the laboratory. You want to highlight your strengths and what you have done previously. And then if you're not familiar with the clinical research, like phase 1 through 4, good clinical practice, drug development process, all of those core classes, that would be good to start as your base, because you do have to get a foundation. If you want to be in clinical research, you have to know, what laws do we abide by, what regulations, what are basically our guidebook for clinical research. So that would be the best kind of advice. Get the foundational courses, as well as understand what role do you want to go into. You can do a quick YouTube search, look up clinical research coordinator, look up clinical research associate, look up clinical trial manager, and see which one resonates with you. And then you can then start aligning better on what are the steps to get to that role. So great question. I know a lot of people may have that one. I want to get into clinical research. Where do I start? We have to see, where do you want to be? What role do you want to be in? And sometimes you have to start at the ground level and work your way up. It's not something you want to be a CRA and you can take one course or you can apply and they're going to let you be a CRA. Some companies really have that. You have to start at the ground level and work your way up. And I have a quick video on my page, my LinkedIn page, tips for having a career in clinical research. I suggest you look at that if you're interested in just kind of learning how quickly can I advance and get going. So great question. I just started a role as a CRC 3, and are there any particular tools or apps that you found helpful? Yes, it depends on what you're doing. Like, so pharmacopoeias are really helpful for me. They had a pocket pharmacopoeia book. They also have an app, but that really helps you with the medication. So if you have a patient coming in for screening and they bring a long list of medications, you can use the pharmacopoeia to confirm their dosages. You can also use it to confirm the indication. So if they say, hey, I'm taking this medication for, diabetes, and you're like, I'm not familiar with this, and you can use your pharmacopoeia to look that up. Pharmacopoeia is a good one. It depends on what you're doing. If you are having to, let's see, it depends on like what you're doing every day as a part of your role. And so there's a lot of apps that you can use to be more efficient, to have at your fingertips. But I would just take a quick look at, what do I do daily kind of in the clinic? What do I struggle with? What can I be more efficient? And just go to the Google Play Store or, the Apple Store, and just kind of look for an app that may help you. If it's drug dosage calculations, you definitely want to be working with your PI and making sure you're confirming dosages. But there are apps that will help with that as well. So it just really depends on what you're looking for. But there's a lot of tools that you can use out there. But I really prefer that pharmacopoeia when you're doing concomitant medication reviews, especially at screening. So great question there. And I'm just trying to make sure that I'm not skipping any. Why is it so challenging for healthcare professionals to break into clinical research? Yeah, that is a question that we ask ourselves. There's a lot of people that want to be from, like want to be in clinical research, but it seems like it's hard to get in. And honestly, before I even started in clinical research, I wasn't even aware of clinical research to begin with. I kind of fell into it. And a lot of people do fall into the role into clinical research, but there are a lot of people that are actively seeking to be in clinical research and they're finding it difficult. I think it's networking is going to be the biggest help. Like for instance, if you were to contact me and you said, hey, I'm looking to get into clinical research, here is my background. I would potentially meet with you, kind of understand a little bit more about what you are looking to do, where you're looking to go, what are you coming with, maybe give you some suggestions on foundational courses. And then from there, I would look within my network and say, hey, we have someone who is looking to be a CRC or looking to eventually transition to be a CRA, but right now they're willing to get their feet wet. So it's a lot about networking. You're not going to find a lot of opportunities on the website. If you just go to the Icon website right now and just go to the careers and just try to get in that way, a lot of it is going to be the networking. Who do you know? Who knows someone else, and you have to kind of go look and approach it that way more so than just going on the website or Google and just going straight from healthcare to clinical research, because there's a lot of things that clinical research professionals can tell you that's not out there on the websites or on Google right now that you need to know. So like for instance, I told you, hey, you need some foundational courses to set yourself apart so you can put it on your resume. You may or may not have known that. And then when you try to apply, you weren't successful. And it's because being in the industry, we know what they're looking for or what most of the clinical researchers are bringing to the table. So it really is about that good networking, aligning yourself with those that know the industry is going to be very helpful. And I know that there's a lot of companies that have career services consultations. So like ClinEssentials has a career services where you can book to speak with a clinical research professional, either myself or someone else who can help you with these questions that you may have. So if you're stumbling with getting in, you're not getting responses, that may be good. Also, I know a lot of other big people on LinkedIn with a good following, they have consults, or they also have services on their website where you can go and book some time and you can really talk about those questions. Hey, I'm not being successful. Why? Any suggestions, etc. Great question. Any advice from someone moving from a CRC to CRA role? I'm a little anxious about shifting gears into a more regulatory role. Well, so I went from CRC to CRA. You just have to think, you are seeing monitors all the time coming in to monitor your studies. So now you're going to be on the other side. You're going to be traveling a lot. The main thing is to understand the travel. If you're not comfortable with travel, if you think that the travel might get overwhelming, that's something to consider. Because as a CRA, your job is travel. It's not, I hope I get on a study and I don't have to travel. Your job is travel. There are some studies that are some studies that have very minimal travel, but that's rare. The thing that comes the most is travel, 2 to 3 days on site every week. So you may be leaving on a Monday, on site Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, coming back Thursday night, in your office Friday, get ready to do it again on Monday. That is the life cycle of a CRA when it has the travel. Knowing your protocol, like the back of your hand, knowing any study manuals, knowing any reference documents, anything that the sites have. As a CRA, you need to be an expert in that, because they may always ask you a question. Hey, on page 3, I don't understand this procedure. So as a CRA, you have to be well versed in what the sites have so you can address their questions. Also, FAQ logs are good to make sure that you're taking a look at that so you can see what the sites may ask and be able to provide a response. But you're almost somewhat of the expert as a CRA. So you have to be ready for the travel. You have to be ready for the reports and the paperwork, the follow-up that's needed, ready for issue escalation, reporting back to your sponsor or to your CTM if you don't have if you don't speak directly to your sponsor. But yes, it's a lot of moving pieces. It is rewarding. It's a rewarding role to be in, but you just do need to know it's going to be different than CRC, and you have to be ready for it because it is different than CRC. But it's good. It's a good progression. Um, Great question. As a person who has been in the clinical research space for close to 5 years, what does CROs consider if I want to transition to the CRA role? So the biggest thing that you want to do is look at the job description. So go pick the CRO that you're interested in. Go to their careers and then look at clinical research associate. What are they looking for? You might want to look for entry level CRA or CRA1 or entry level CRA and look at the job description. What are the requirements? They may say we're looking for someone with at least 5 years of clinical research experience, a bachelor's, an associate's. What are they saying there in the job requirements? From there, see, do you align? And then also go up on that job description to see not only do I know the requirements, but what am I going to be responsible for? One of the things that I highly recommend, whether it doesn't matter what role you're going into, you need to supplement what the company will offer for training with additional training. So if you're looking to get into the CRA world, you need to add some additional training. Someone that's going to give you a different perspective, give you the how-tos, give you pro tips. And there's a lot of programs that are out there that can provide CRA training. And that's just to set you up for success, because you will always, when you get on site, or when you not get on site, but when you get hired, you're going to get hired. They're going to give you the SOPs. They're going to give you the system training. They're going to train you about your study. And then they're going to say, okay, here's your sites. And we would like you to book your first visit in 3 weeks. And if you're a newer CRA and you were hoping that, oh, they're going to give me this, nurturing period and training, they're not. So if you're coming in, they're going to make you hit the ground running. So that's why I'm saying supplement. They will have some SOPs for how to monitor, but it's not that how-to. It's not those pro tips. It's not like tools to use, how to be more efficient, how to pack your monitoring bag, all of those things. So do the legwork on your side. And then also, let's see, I'm just trying to think if there's any other suggestions for CRA. I think those are the high points, but supplements, be ready to go. There are some companies that are offering like entry level CRA positions and transitioning from other roles, and they have like an extensive course, but those are very hard to get into. It's almost like you're like an entry level CRA, and then they send you through like a 3-month program, and then after that they'll shadow, and then they'll put you on the road. That's ideal if you're new, but if you're transitioning from another role and you have enough experience, they may just go ahead and put you right out there on the road ASAP. So be ready for that as well. Let's see. Can you give me or us some how to work with ETMFs? Yeah, so it depends on what TMF you're working with. And I'm not sure if you are a CRC, a CRA, or a CTM, because it depends how you're going to be working with the system based off of your role. But let's just say you're a CRA and you want to know what your sites are missing, what is missing from your site's investigator site file to what is actually filed already in the Viva Vault. You want to look and run reports. There's a reporting tab and there's a completion report where you can go in and you can run that, and it will tell you the sections that are missing. And this is only as good as um, the expected document list being updated. And I'll give you an example. So when they build the Viva Vault, they will say, how many documents, how many CVs are we expecting? How many 1572s are we expecting? For some instances and for some documents, you're only expecting one document. So ideally, we're only expecting one 1572. However, if there's 2 or 3 because there's updates, the system is not expecting 2 and 3 versions. So if one version is updated, it may say we fulfilled this 1572 placeholder. So you have to use that report as a basis, but then also make sure that you're physically checking were there more than one 1572, and if so, you need to update or have your CTA update the expected document number so the system is expecting 3 versions versus just 1. So it really depends on your role, but there's the reports is really good. If you're a CTM, you can get the report of the completeness as well can be used to see how complete is the TMF. Is it looking good? If you are a site, some companies have where the sites can upload the regulatory documents to Viva Vault using like the site version. And so that's also something that can be used. And there's probably a report or a completeness menu you can use for that. So it really depends. There's usually a eTMF super user at your company though that you can reach out to and ask them any pointers that you need. When I did them, they were paper. When I did them, they were paper. Yeah, so same. So paper is about the same. Like if you have paper TMF, it's the same kind of process. But if you're using eTMF now, you want to reach out to the super user and they'll be able to guide you. But there's also trainings that they have a lot with the eTMFs that you can take and just really give you an overview of what's going on. Hey everyone, just going through what would you suggest if you feel stunted in career growth with your current employer? The good question. So the question is, what do you want to do? Do you want to go to the CRA position? Do you want to go to the CTM position? What are you looking to do? It's always good to at least speak with your line manager to say, hey, this is where I want to be. This is where I'm looking to be in 5 years. What are the opportunities at my company, and voice that to them. Do know that one of the biggest things you have to realize, you may have to leave that company and you may have to go to another company where they're giving you what you want to do. So don't feel stuck there at that company. There's plenty of other companies you can go to, but first you have to be clear on where you want to go. Ask your manager, involve your manager, but sometimes your manager, their hands are tied and they can't help you, or there's not a career progression there. So you might have to go somewhere else. So that's something that you may need to consider. Also, this probably would be a good conversation for speaking with a clinical research professional that has career, that can provide career services advice. And so that is something that I would also suggest there, or even in your network, speak with someone on their journey. What did they do? So there's a lot of options, but if you have to leave, you may have to leave because sometimes there's no upward position for what you want to do. Over the next 12 to 18 months, what does the job market look like for CRCs, CRAs, and clinical trials as a whole? So right now it has definitely slowed. When the pandemic had first hit and we also had a lot of new additional trials, we we're really in a frenzy to get as many people on board as possible. So we needed CRCs, CRAs, CTMs just across the board. And now that those studies are over and things have kind of leveled out, it's a little bit tighter in our industry right now. We go through seasons where it's like up and down and up and down, and we're kind of in a down season. Now, some companies are still full speed ahead, others are going slower. So that's why you may not see as many openings as you once did, but there's still lots of opportunities out there. That's where you may need to tap into your network if you're finding it harder. Make sure your resume is up to speed. Make sure you're having, continuing education, foundational courses, certificates, anything that will set you apart, and make sure that you are preparing for any interviews, because you may not get interviews as quickly and as frequently as you used to, 2 years ago. So there are still studies going on. We're not, going away. You just have to be a little bit more strategic, because there are not as many opportunities as there once were, but there are still opportunities. There are still opportunities. Okay. Hi, I've worked as an on-site clinical research assistant for the past year and a half, and I am looking to transition to a remote clinical research position. I would love to be a clinical trials assistant specifically, but I'm wondering if I should aim for a more senior position given that I have experience already. I have several clinical research CITI certificates and other clinical research experience. I would love to hear your thoughts and advice. Okay, so CTA typically, clinical trial assistant positions typically are actually in-house. And that's because they're usually helping with sometimes the paper TMFs, if they are paper TMFs. Sometimes they are shipping out supplies and binders and printing and all those things. So a remote position, a remote CTA position, it may not be possible. So just wanted to help you set expectations there, because you may be looking for a needle in a haystack. There could be where you need to go in 2 days a week and you're remote the other 3 days. There may be some hybrids, but to be fully remote as a CTA, at some companies that's not possible, because traditionally the CTA position is you're assisting with those shipments and different things like that. On-site clinical research assistant. So that's good experience. So that's good experience that you're having. And then the other thing, when you say aiming for a more senior position, where do you ultimately want to be? That's the question. Ultimately want to be, that will determine kind of your next path, whether you skip over CTA and go straight to where you ultimately want to be. And ClinEssentials, we do have say for instance, you want to be a CTM. We do have a free guide that you can download that will tell you the roles that typically transition to the CTM role. So if that's something that you want to do, I suggest that you download that free guide, and I'll put it in the link after this session, so you can have access to that and follow those steps. But you need to go to the job descriptions. You need to make sure, hey, this is how many years I'm coming with. This is what they're looking for me to have. And I would possibly suggest, reaching out to your network so you can get strategic on your next steps there. But you definitely have some good pathways. We just have to make sure that we are looking at what your ultimate goal is and making your immediate next step in line with your ultimate goal. Okay, dentistry field. Same. You need to learn about clinical research, and then you also have to be willing to take a entry-level position. So don't think that because you're coming from the dentistry field that you're going to go straight into being a CTM. You have to do the groundwork, and you have to learn about clinical research before you kind of work up the chain. So definitely just helping to set expectations, but that's good experience to have. But you also need to know that you have to learn clinical research and how we kind of operate in our field, and where you come in and with your experience in dentistry, you can quickly go up, but you also need to know that you have to put in the groundwork as well. Another, how can I get into clinical research? Looking at what do you want to be? What role do you want to be in? And then getting some of those foundational courses. One of the things that once you have that foundation, you can go to your local clinical research centers in your area and see if you can either volunteer and they can be teaching you about clinical research, or if there's something that you're bringing from your other field. So from let's just say from dentistry, taking that dentistry example, maybe you're a dentist, a hygienist, and there are clinical research studies for various dental devices. So maybe you find a clinical research clinic that is doing dental studies. And then now you can come in and say, hey, I have taken some foundational courses. I understand what we do. And I also have a background as a dental hygienist. Could I offer my services because you're doing clinical research studies in the dental space? And that's how you can bridge that gap, which you're coming from, meeting them with foundational courses. Can I volunteer? Can you teach me? Or is there, a research assistant or another role that I can start with and learn and progress? I myself, started off as an admin assistant at a site management organization. And after a few months, I had expressed my interest in being a clinical research coordinator. And then they had trained me on the job, as well as I took additional courses outside of the on the job training. So I took courses at my local community college. I helped bridge the gap. And that's how I got my start as a CRC. So, and then after 4 years, I was the lead CRC running multiple studies, and I had a team with me, sharing all the studies along. So sometimes it takes that entry level point to get in, to learn, and then with time, you can continue to go up. Pharmacist to being a CTM. Just trying to think of the least path of resistance. So the same guide that I had mentioned, how to transition to the clinical research or the clinical trial manager role. Couple of things. You're a pharmacist currently. That's great experience to have. You're not going to go right into the CTM role. And the reason being is the CTM role is a senior position, and you are literally running the entire study. It could be a global study. It could be, you have a team of 25. You need to get some experience, that stepping stone experience. And depending on your background and your interest, you could be either a CRA, or you could also be a CTA. And those are stepping stones to the CTM position. In addition, I would suggest that additional training. So ClinEssentials has a clinical trial manager training program that we train aspiring CTMs and also current CTMs on how to successfully run their study from study startup to study closeout. So if you're coming from pharmacy and you are looking to be a CTM, you need that training, because you're not sure what's going on in the CTM world. And there's nothing online that's going to paint the picture as much as a detailed course. So you need to get clear on what you have to do, because again, once you get into that role, they're going there's no questions. There's no time for lots of questions. There's no time for lots of training or hand holding. They're throwing you right to run that phase 1 oncology study across 3 countries, and you're going. So you need some training to set you up for success, but also know you can't go just straight from pharmacy to CTM. There's going to be some stepping stone positions you got to do to get there. And that's just that's the honest truth. And a lot of people, they may think that they can do some of these things, but you're actually going to be doing yourself an injustice if you don't understand what the CRC does, or the CTA does, or the CRA does. because those roles tie into how the CTM does their job. And so you need to know and have those foundational courses and have some experience at a level, maybe a step down to the CTM to set you up for success to be a great CTM. The next CTM training course is August 23rd. And so you can register now for the next all access CTM training course. The next one after that will probably be later this year. I'm not sure, it hasn't been scheduled yet. But for those that are currently in the CTM role and maybe they need some additional guidances on various sections of the study. So maybe they're in study maintenance right now and they're going to another study that's going to be in study startup. But they have been a CTM. They just want to brush up on CTM responsibilities. They can take the self-paced CTM course. So there is an option of a self-paced course for the CTM, but that's best for those that are already in the CTM role and need to just brush up on various topics. But if you're an aspiring or current, like a entry-level CTM, it's best that you take the all access. And the next one is August 23rd. And that's because we have sessions, live sessions on Wednesdays for 2.5 hours where we go through various scenarios, practical activity, etc. And we get to talk about this is how you plan an investigators meeting. This is how you plan an interim analysis. And so you get to ask questions back and forth. It's very engaging. So that's why I suggest all access to those that are new or aspiring CTMs, because they get to ask the questions in real time. Great question. Any advice on finding clinical research opportunities or roles in the U.S.? Are roles in the U.S. as an IMG with clinical research experience? So I would really, and I want to exit out of this full screen, but I would really say this is where your network. What are you trying to do? So you said finding clinical research opportunities. Do you mean like trying to find clinical research studies for your clinic? Or are you looking to do be a CRA? So I would need some additional clarity on that question, and then maybe I can help advise best. But either way, your network is going to be helpful for finding studies. And then also the other thing I would say is if you are looking to get into a CRA or something like that, you want to marry your experience with the job description. What are they asking for? What are they looking for? And one thing that I do want to say is on the CRO websites, you want to make sure that you look at multiple CRA positions. One CRA position may say you need 2 years experience. Another one may say you need 5 years experience. And sometimes they're not always associated with senior CRA. It could just say senior, it could just say clinical research associate. So look at multiple job descriptions at a company and not just think that it's just one that you need to look at. And that's going to tell the whole story for how they look at CRAs at that company. Let's see. Here's another question. Great question, though. I want to transition to a clinical manager role from CRC2, and I need to learn more about the any tips. I don't know what that last part was, but same. That guide is going to be great for that guide is going to be great to help you transition. CRC, it is possible, but there is that I definitely suggest getting in that course, the CTM course, to set you up for success, because the site level activities that you're doing is nothing compared to what the CTM is doing. And I also want to make sure, clinical manager role, are you saying clinical manager role at the site level, or are you talking about clinical manager role at the CRO or sponsor? Because those are used interchangeably, but the strategy is different. So I need a little bit more information about that. But if you're at the site as a CRC and you want to be a site level clinical manager, Ask your clinical director on the site level, your PI, or whoever's in charge of what could you do. But if you want to move to the sponsor or CRO side, then that's where you need to get in a course that's going to bridge that gap, and set you up for success. Also, I have seen site staff go right into a CTM1 position. That is possible, but you also, it's about how you interview, how you are responsive to how they ask the questions. You have to have strategy for that. That's not just an everyday thing. You have to get ready for that. So it's a good position to want to go to, but you just have to, it's all about the strategy and the knowledge. Good question. Let's see. Any advice to break into clinical research from dentistry field still having rejections for a clinical research assistant role? Yeah, I would say when I see that, you need someone that is a clinical research professional to take a look at your resume. Most times resumes are not set up how they should be when you're getting into clinical research. So for instance, you're coming from the dentistry field, you're trying to come to clinical research. First thing, they're going to be looking at your education. Do you have clinical research courses? Good clinical practice? Do you know about the drug development process? That's one thing that they're going to go to write on your resume. If they don't see that, they're like, okay, well, we need someone that can hit the ground running, that knows about clinical research. They may just slide you to that rejection pile just because you're coming from a totally different field and you don't have any kind of knowledge of clinical research. So to them, it's like more training that they have to do to get you up to speed to do the work that needs to be done. So you have to look at it that way. So I would definitely suggest that you have someone look at your resume and make sure that it's optimized for the clinical research industry and not just the same resume that you were sending when you were in the dentistry field, because those resumes are not the same. Another example is a lot of times people think that they should only have one page for their resume. In clinical research, you can have multiple pages. So my CV, I have my CV/resume, we use it interchangeably, has 6 pages. And that shows how much extensive experience. But someone getting in from the dentistry field, you may be cutting out key experience that could show a potential employer that you're a good fit, because you're trying to keep it down to 1 page. And so that's why it's good to connect with someone that's in clinical research that can show you this is how to optimize your resume for clinical research. And that could be done through like a career services call with either ClinEssentials or another company that has resume review, but make sure they're a clinical research company and not just a resume company, because resume companies don't know clinical research and how to set the resumes up for the best review. Another thing would be like therapeutic area experience. Everyone should have if you're in clinical research, you should have a section on your resume that has therapeutic area experience and outlines oncology, endocrinology, gastroenterology. That's a key section to have on resumes in clinical research. But if you don't know that, you don't have that, and it's not highlighting what you have in your past life and your past experience, you have to be able to show that, because they get a lot of resumes and they go quickly through them. If they're not seeing these high key points, these key terms, it's set up, they go to the next. So that's probably why you're not having success, but we can definitely, work with you to make sure you're successful. Great question. I just started a healthcare law program. Will it make a difference in the field? No. It won't, not in clinical research. So what are you ultimately trying to do? That's a question. Are you trying to see, it looks like you're a CRC right now. What are you ultimately trying to do? That's the question, because a CTM, you don't need healthcare law. If you are trying to be a CRA, no. So what is your ultimate goal within the industry? And that's something very good point, and not related to not related to healthcare law, but you do have to be careful with the certificates that you take, that you're doing, or programs that you're doing, and you think that it's going to help you. You might want to get someone in the industry to clarify. One of the things that I see a lot of people doing, and it's the project manager program, the PMP certificate. And they get this PMP certificate and they think that that alone is going to get you a job as a CTM or a project manager. That certificate alone will not get you a CTM position. Now, if you're already in the CTM position and you want to take the PMP, it's definitely good. But there's a lot of misconceptions that that PMP certificate alone will get you a CTM position. And it's not. And the reason being is you may be in a PMP program and you have project managers from all industries. So you have people in there from sales, from construction, from, it could be telecommunications. It's project managers from all industries are in that PMP certificate program. And they're teaching you how to be a project manager on a higher scale. Timelines, how to manage your timelines, how to manage your team. But they're not speaking how to manage a clinical trial. And so that's where a lot of people think that getting a PMP is going to give them a shoe-in to get the CTM position. But you're still at a loss because you don't know how to manage a clinical trial from study startup through study closeout. Do you know how to plan an investigators meeting? Do you know how to plan an interim analysis? Do you know how to create the plans? And that's what the PMP certificate is not going into. And that's the details that you need to know if you're going to be a successful CTM. So everyone who's taking or considering additional education for the clinical research space, make sure it makes sense to where you're at in your career, because healthcare law program, depending on where you want to be, it may not be the appropriate step, or it may be something you don't need. You can just get to where you want to get to by having the experience and kind of working your way up through the ranks. Do you see clinical research moving to more remote opportunities? Some will be remote. Depends on the role, though. Not all will be remote. Like coordinators, they are in the clinic. They're seeing the patients. That can't be remote. They may be able to have one remote day, but it's not traditionally being remote. CTMs, most often, they're all remote. CRAs, you're remote when you're not traveling. So it really depends on the role. And then CTAs, as I mentioned, most of the time you have to send out supplies, you have to send out binders, do printing, maybe do filing of the paper TMF. So that's not going to be remote because you need to be in the main office. So it depends. Some will be remote, some won't. Do you have any courses to recommend for someone who wants to start in clinical research? Yeah, you need to do, I think NIDA has a good clinical practice course. UCSD Extension, University of California, San Diego Extension has a whole certificate program for clinical trial management and design. I took that program. And they have a lot of prerequisite core classes, medical terminology, drug development process, good clinical practice, human subjects and their rights. So talking about IRBs, those are good core classes. And you can look at your local community college, you can look online. There's a lot of different ways that you can get information about research in those core classes. What roles, what roles can one apply for as a CRC with 1.5 years worth of experience? It depends on what you're trying to do. You can be a CTA. You can potentially, depends on the company and depends on the need, you can potentially be a CRA, one or entry level, but it's all going back to your job descriptions. What role are you interested in? And then look at the job description at this company, and then look at the job description about 3 more companies and see, because every company is different. one, if it says 3 years required over here, another one may say 1 year and another one may say 2. So look across the board. Don't just look at one and think that's the guidelines across all companies. Let's see. With 5 years of senior level site leadership experience on a non-pharma CRO, trying to get into pharma clinical research, but not getting any bites or even interviews. Advice, please. I would say use your network. So it looks like you're a CRC, certified CRC with 5 years of senior level. You talk to your monitors, talk to your CRAs that are coming in to you and monitoring your studies, networking with them, telling them, hey, this is what I want to do. Now, not all monitors you'll be able to get on that conversation level with, but there may be one or two that you can ask them, hey, is your company hiring? Do you know about entry level positions that I may be able to apply for? And the reason why that's key is because that CRA gets a lot of opening alerts and job opportunities, and they could based off of your history together, get your resume and give it to their manager or give it to HR for you to backdoor your resume in. Different than applying on the website, but taking your resume, handing it to the right person. So that's why the networking is so important there. Great question. What other areas of clinical research can you consider getting into for entry-level roles besides CRA? I mean, sorry, CRC and CTA. Research assistants is another one. Recruitment specialist is another one. You could, if you're looking at the site level, I would say look at recruitment specialists. You can look at research assistants who are assistants to the CRC. I don't know what your background is RN. I mean, you could definitely even come in as a potential phlebotomist to get you started, to get in there. You could, if you have any, like if you were, not saying for you, but a physical therapist, if you have prior physical therapy experience, you can go and be at a clinic that does physical therapy or related clinical research trials. So you have to definitely look at what you could bring to the table, what you're interested in. And sometimes it's as good as having an old-fashioned conversation with the site director, going in, talking to them face to face, not emailing resumes, not applying through the websites, going in and saying, hey, this is what I'm bringing. This is what I would like to do. I've taken a GCP course. I understand clinical research. Are there any opportunities here? And again, not also directed to you, but other opportunities. If you're coming from a different background and you have experience with sales, business development in clinical research is sales. If you have experience with marketing, all of these companies, at least on the site level, need help with marketing to potential patients, with the recruitment. So always bring your skill set and try to merge it with the clinical research. But you also need to know why we do the things that we do within clinical research. So that's why the foundational courses are so helpful. Hi, Tiffany. I'm looking to become a CRC from a CNA position. I do have the skills, but I do lack clinical research experience. Would you recommend a CRC academy, or how else can I find the experience in order to be more of an interest? Yeah, so I would definitely say CRC Academy. Also, I would say the foundational courses, get that clinical research experience. Go to do a quick Google search, clinical research sites in my area. So if you are wherever you're at, put it clinical research sites in Houston, Texas, or wherever you're at. Find some sites local to you. Once you have that experience, approach it just like I had said. Speak to the clinical director, see what you can potentially offer them based off of your current experience, and bridge that gap and go ahead and get your foot through the door and work up from there. And GCP certified SAID. So that's good. Yeah, you're already there. You just have to do a few things. And again, CRC Academy, anything that you can do to help yourself on the job and also help yourself with just understanding what should be happening, what I should do. When you get hired by any company, whether you just in any company in any role, you can't 100% depend on them to give you all the training and everything, all the tools. Everyone learns different. Everyone has different learning styles, different backgrounds. So setting yourself up with some kind of structured program, course, certificate, etc., helps you. You could try to find it online. You can try to piecemeal a few things, but it's not going to be comprehensive. And just like getting your degree or anything like that, there's no guarantee that you're going to get a job once you get done with the certificates. However, it gives you a better advantage. And so, like for yourself, if you're trying to get in the role, it's going to help you. You're saying, hey, site director, this is what I have. I know about screening visits. I know about XYZ. You're a benefit to them. They don't have to teach you those things. You can literally hit the ground running. Versus if you don't know, they're going to have to coach you through those things. And it's more time that you're taking away from them doing other things. What is your advice for taking the ACRP certificate? Do you have any tips on the exam? No, I don't have any tips, but besides what's on the website that they have there, it's based off of the experience. So being a ACRP certified, you can only sit for the exam after you have so many years experience. So it's definitely good. It's not required for all roles though. So check the job descriptions, check the requirements. It's something that if you want to be known as certified in your field or as a CRA, you can take it, but not all jobs require the certification. And then the tips, I definitely, on the website, it will say this exam will cover, ICH sections, XYZ. Follow what they're saying and then brush up, review those, because that's what they're going to test you on. So those would be, that would be my advice on the ACRP exam there. Great question. So is there, we got so many good questions. Okay. Is there a time frame one should stay in before trying to move to another position? Currently, I have been a CRC for 10 months and would like to explore other positions. I mean, 1 year is ideal. 1 year in whatever position. 2 years would be good. In that 10 months, depending on your site, you may have learned a lot, but you may not have learned everything. You may not, some of your studies might be in startup, but you haven't experienced something in closeout or something like that. So try to get as much experience as you can once you're already in before making the jump. Also, too many jumps on your resume doesn't look good, because then the potential employer says, oh, what's going on here? You went from CRC to CRA and now you're trying to be a CTM. So what's going on? And if you can voice why you did that in your interview, it wouldn't be a problem. But some people, it just looks a little flaky if you keep jumping. So get as much experience as you can as a CRC while you're in there. Try to see the full spectrum, studies and study startup, on maintenance and closeout. That's good history that you will have in your knowledge base when you get that. So I would just say you can definitely do it probably at a year mark, or even start looking now, because it may take a couple months and you'll be at a year, but be ready for that conversation during interviews of why you're moving so soon after starting. And if you're saying, well, my ultimate goal is to be a CTM, then that makes sense. But if you don't have a real good rationale, then it doesn't look favorable. Okay, thanks, Jen. She's put in the link, Jennifer McGee, she put in the link for the free guide about how to transition. So she put that in there. It's here. So she was able to get that for us. So for those that are looking to get in the CTM role, download the free guide. It has 6 to 8 pages of information, great tips that you can use to implement. What therapeutic areas are hot right now? Oncology is always going to be hot. That's a hot topic. Previously, before we were COVID and the vaccines, that was hot. And so it just really depends. It depends on what companies, it depends on what your niche is. You can usually find studies in your niche, but you want to make sure you're reaching out to your network. So it just really depends. But oncology is always going to be hot. Vaccines are not as hot now because we have a approved COVID drug. But these are just, it fluctuates, but oncology definitely. There, healthcare background. Okay, let me see. I'm gonna take a couple more questions. I was a CRA monitor in oncology in the academic field in France and now live in the US. Any tips to find a job in clinical research here? If you're a CRA already, oncology, I would just say find your ideal company based off where you're at, and don't be afraid to look at oncology specific sponsors too, because you may be able to more easily, if you are hired or if you target sponsors that specialize in oncology, you can be one of their monitors. Not all sponsors use CROs, and so you can be a sponsor CRA because you already have the experience. So that would be my suggestion. Is it shouldn't be hard. You just also need to look at your the job descriptions for it. And then let's see. Okay, I'm gonna take one more question. I'm going to take one more question because we're at the top of that. Hi, my first clinical research position was a clinical research director of operations and second clinical research director of 3 clinics. Okay, it's very fast paced with no real training. Now I want to go into the pharmaceutical directing. Yes. Okay. Firsthand experience. The training, I'm telling you, don't just take it from me with my 20 years. People are on the ground in the positions and they're telling you you're not going to get the training. So remember, always supplement wherever you want to go. Make sure you get the proper training to set you up for success. Now you want to go into pharmaceutical directing. So for pharmaceutical directing, find your ideal job description. Go on, one of these pharmaceutical companies. Find the job role that you want. Then look at the requirements. Look at the requirements and look at the job responsibilities, and still make sure that it aligns with what you want to do. And then also, where are you missing anything from what they are requiring you to do? I will say that going from site level to the pharmaceutical sponsor CRO level, it's different. So I would also probably suggest that you reach out to your network of someone who is currently in that role to let you know how they got their pathway, and see if that can help advise your pathway. So that was great. Okay, I'm just gonna scan it really quick. It looks like some people were. My email address, it depends on what you'll be emailing me for. My email box can get crazy. So reach out to me on LinkedIn. And then we can connect on potentially what your question is. Okay. This is going to be the last question. Thanks for joining. I definitely see I'm a scanner for you. I have another one. I see you, Jess. Okay. These are the last 2. I could go on for hours and hours talking about clinical research and answering questions. I love this. This is what I love to do, but I do have to stop it eventually. But I'm going to take this one, and then I see Jess there too. Could I apply for CRC roles as a recent graduate? Yes. I started as a CRC. I was an admin for about 3 to 6 months, but I did that right out of high school, graduate for high school. It can be done. So if you're a graduate from university, of course, it can definitely be done. Or do I start with CTA? Depends. You say my goal is to become a CTM. Yeah, you can go either way. So if you're a graduate, do you want to go CRC or do you want to go to CTA? Whatever you do, you're going to need your foundational courses. And if you have that admin background and you are familiar with, doing meeting minutes and creating agendas, CTA may be good. But if you want to be in the clinic with patients, CRC. So it really depends on your preferences. But you can go from CRC, you have to go up the rank, be a lead CRC, but you can go from CRC once you've been there for a few years, then to CTM that way, or you can go from CTA to CTM. So either way is a pathway, but it just depends how quickly you're trying to get there. And you have previous clinical data manager experience from India. That's great experience to have. Very good experience. And that's going to more so help you as a CRC than CTA, because CTA doesn't deal with the data as much, but it's definitely going to help you as a CTM when you're looking at the overall metrics for the study. So good experience to have. You just have to see which way you want to go and what you want to do, and go from there. And then Jess, couldn't agree more with the PMP comments. It gives you an edge after, you are in a CTM/PM role, but that industry knowledge is so essential. Take it from another industry professional. I'm not just saying these things. I want to make sure that we set you up for a success. And that PMP certificate is not going to help you be a CTM. It's not going to give you the information you need to know. But a clinical trial manager training course that's specific to clinical trial managers, now that is going to help you, because it's going to go through study startup to study closeout, everything you need to do day-to-day responsibilities, what to look out for, etc. All right, so we're gonna have to end. We're like 6 minutes over. I could go on and on and on. We'll do another one of these sessions. I won't be able to do one here for the next probably 2 months, but we'll do one here coming up. But we'll see. If you guys have great feedback, you want one of these, just let me know in the comments. But I'm actually going to be working on a new series called Clinical Researchers Around the World. So I will be doing some traveling and interviewing clinical research professionals in various countries. So I'm going to be on the road for a little bit, but I will still be accessible through LinkedIn. Also for my CTM course participants, I will still be checking in and making sure that they are well supported. So definitely. And if you're in any of these countries, Dubai or France or Egypt, and you want to speak to me when I'm out there visiting, definitely send me an IM as well, and maybe we can coordinate. And so I would love to interview clinical research professionals around the world as I kind of journey through and learn about their different things that are done differently than the US, and things that are done the same. All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us in this session. And then we will see you again for the next session. And definitely feel free to reach out, connect with me, and check out the replay for the April 20th session if you didn't or weren't able to attend that one as well. All right. Thanks so much. Have a good one. Bye.